On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk Amazon acquiring iRobot, stepping up your service, and commercial and residential partners. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 342. Absolutely not.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Crestron.
Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. This week, I'm pleased to be joined by two of my longtime friends. First, we have Katie McGregor-Bennett. She's the president at KMB Communications. How you doing, Katie?
I'm doing well. Having a better day than you are, that's for sure.
I'm having a great day. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, that's what we're going with. That other person you hear there laughing is Amanda Wildman. She is the co-owner of True Media Home. How you doing, Amanda?
I am doing great, Matt. And apparently we're going to be on like opposite ends. It's going to be a battle duke out with you and I today.
No. You're allowed to be wrong. It's cool. It's perfectly fine.
No.
That's how we're starting it out. It's great. All right. We're going to kick this off with a story that comes to us from CE Pro with a footnote from Bloomberg, because I'm that kind of guy. Amazon has acquired iRobot Roomba for $1.7 billion. Yes, billion in cash, adding to its growing portfolio of smart home things like Ring, Fire TV, and Echo smart speakers, etc. I don't want to say we saw this coming, but they've talked about buying Roomba for or iRobot as the parent company, for a couple of years. But I also want to tag this into a story out of Bloomberg that came after this, where the Roomba deal with Amazon is specifically about mapping your home. We covered this back before we had ResiWeek on AV Week, about how concerning it was that iRobot was not only mapping your home so it could vacuum your carpet better, but it was storing that data and using that from an analytics standpoint. And if you read through the Bloomberg report that our good friend Mitchell will throw up into the show information, you can see that is specifically what they're doing by accessing and having control of those maps. They know the size of your house, which gives a good proxy for your wealth depending on your location. If you've got toys all over the floor, it means you've got kids. If you don't have much furniture, there are so many pieces that they're going to pull out of the analytics of this, which should concern me. Katie, when you see this, other than it's cool that Amazon keeps adding to their portfolio of smart home devices, is this as concerning to you as this is to me?
It is concerning. So back up. Yes, it is concerning. It's not surprising at the least. I think this is we've seen this one and variations of this coming for years. And I think that's kind of the reality. And what takes me to my next point, which is we've been seeing this type of activity coming into view for years. We know it's happening. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. My position on these types of things is what can be done then to secure these types of technologies by the custom integration channel, because we can't get away from them entering the home for the most part. I mean, obviously it's a consumer decision, and based on, the needs of your household and the decisions that you make, how much technology you allow into it. I think, that's obviously a very personal decision. But products like this are going to continue to come to market. They're going to continue to be compelling. The more data they can acquire and provide to a potential marketing-based company, the more desirable they're going to be for acquisition. So I think we should flip the script and go, how can our community do an even better job in the future of making sure that products like this can be as controlled as possible, so that only the information and the data and the analytics go outside of that home as the home is prepared to release into the wild. Can this be done with this product? I don't know. I think to a degree, yes. There are integrators that actually have this in their model. And I know, Matt, you're like, there's no way we should even be touching this. But there are Level Up Automation. Jen Mallett, this is a big part of her business model, is conceding and catering to these types of products and doing the best that they can to bring it into the ecosystem of the home, but also protect the home as best as it can be. So,
yeah, there are ways to control it from a network level, what goes out and what doesn't go out, et cetera. But that also can occasionally have limitations on the functionality of the device. Amanda, the part of this that continually frustrates me is, as I'm sure you have been in the past, we routinely get beat up by our customers by products that we put into their home because, oh my gosh, they might not be secure and somebody might be monitoring them, namely CCTV and smart TVs and all this other crap. They're going out and buying Roombas at Target or Best Buy or wherever the heck they want. And the level of data that's going out from devices like this, not just Roomba, but everything else, far exceeds the stuff that we typically as integrators are selling. Without going down the finger-pointing route, how do you have that conversation with the client who's concerned about privacy in your walkthrough while your feet are being bumped into by a bloody Roomba?
Well, I think it's one of those things where we have to make the people aware, right? I mean, this is a topic that we need to bring awareness to, and that it gives validity to our industry for why we need to be there and why we need to be part of the conversation. Because, I mean, this is that gift that, right, you buy somebody off of their wedding registry, like, here, start a new home. By the way, we're going to give you this thing that now Amazon knows your entire footprint of your house, and nobody thinks about it. They just think, oh, I'm buying a really great gift that's going to offer a convenience to this couple, or, you know, to dear grandma, or, you know, whatever the case may be in their home. And we don't realize what the trade-off is because we're not having those conversations. Because certainly, like, the places that sell them, I mean, you're not going to get someone at Target or even someone at Best Buy or someone at Amazon that says, oh, by the way, buy this product and here's the trade-off. The convenience we're offering you, this is what you're giving up as far as privacy. But I think so for us, it needs to be that conversation, because our model is not to sell that kind of product, but to bring that up to the conversation and say, this is why it's important to have an integrator. This is why it's important to have someone who monitors your network. You can have these products because it's everybody's choice. I mean, people can choose what privacy they want to give up or what level of privacy. Some people are absolutely not, probably like you, Matt. And some people are like, well, you know what? The convenience is going to be more, but at least they're aware of it. You know, and I think that that's one of our biggest jobs is the education and making them aware. When you're plugging something in and you attach it to the network, what convenience are you getting and what privacy are you giving up? And are there ways to potentially kind of mitigate the privacy that you give up while still having some of the convenience? Like you said, maybe they don't get all the features, but that's where our job really comes into play. Education.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, let's change topics for a moment. This comes to us from Residential Systems and stepping up your service, how a white glove treatment requires dedicated staff and clear-cut processes, not processes, processes. And is it right for your business? As I made both the Americans laugh. All right, read through this article because they cover a lot of really good points and highlight Premier SAV based out of Jackson Hole. Where I'd love to go skiing, talking about how they've scaled up their service to deal with a bunch of clients that require white glove. Amanda, service is this dubious realm that most integrators politely suffer in. We cannot make heads or tails of this. How do you apply and implement a proper service approach? Not necessarily even a plan or a team, but an approach that is scaled appropriately to your customer lifestyle, shall we say, and your company's size and bandwidth. Because we hear there's so many different avenues there as far as what is the industry approved or promoted service approach. And I, for one, don't think that works for 90% of the integrators.
Yeah. I think, again, it's one of those things in the article. What I loved that they talked about is the soft skills that it really takes a special person, you know, and regardless of which way you go, whether you choose to outsource it, you know, for like the first calls in, whether you choose to do it in-house, I think that was a really great thing that they first pointed out is that it is a very unique skill set. It's not going to be like just handing your technician on the weekend the phone call, because the technician may or may not have that type of soft skill set. But at the same time, one of the things like that we implemented in our office is we call them field trip days, where even people in our office have opportunities where they go out into the field to see the challenges and see the things that we come up with or that we're working on and how it all gets installed so that they can better answer the phone, so that they can better understand a little bit of the technical. Because the biggest thing at the beginning is people want to know that they're going to be taken care of. And if they're really, really upset about something, you have to have a person who knows how to diffuse the situation. Even if it means, hey, you know what, we can't get that part right away, or hey, it's going to take a truck roll tomorrow, we can't get it to today. People need to be heard. People need to know that you understand what the problem is, and people need to know that you have a solution. And so I really liked how they focused on that soft skill. So whether you're a big company and you have a whole division like Premier, whether you outsource it, through another company that can help you, answer those phones, or whether you choose to do it in-house, I think the biggest takeaway from that whole story is knowing the right kind of people and the right kind of skill sets that they have to have.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Katie, one of the things that always gets touched on here is that we essentially get fed this line that we're supposed to have this process in place, and no one has this process in place. Where do you go to figure out an effective way? Is this when you lean on, a contractor that you work with really well, who has kind of figured out service, or a home builder, or an architect? I don't know. Where do you go to figure this out? Because again, most people haven't.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at available resources within our industry first, I think just fundamentally should always be the first step. So within our community, there are service providers of varying levels. There's One Vision Resources, there's Parasol, there's other companies that provide services and outsource resource to integrators for those who don't have the resources to do them inside, or have ways to script and provide a roadmap for creating a service department within your company. So those resources exist. There's being able to lean on your peer group, which if you've got a strong peer group just from being in the industry and networking, there's that avenue. I think, if you're part of a buying group, definitely, the peer structure there is significant. And the advantages that you get of kind of that smaller circle or bigger circle perspective is just how close are those other peers to the same similar model that you have, same revenue structure, same even regional structure. All of those little nuances are important. So anyways, long-winded answers, always look at the, your industry resources first. But I'm a big advocate of looking into the adjacent trades and looking at how service is provided, delivered, and exceeds customer expectations, not just in our own industry. We don't necessarily grow by doing everything the same way that we've always done it, and the others that are in our industry have always done it. So I think doing some due diligence, obviously you need to have time and bandwidth to be able to do that. So sometimes just going back to the industry resource is a great place to start, but then being diligent in your follow-up on that on a quarterly or annually basis and just going and taking a look at what others are doing. I think that makes a lot of sense. But honestly, this article provides a really good roadmap, honestly,
it does.
And I mean, it does. And, the individuals that are quoted in here, and SAV especially, who I have some personal connection to being here in Montana, but, they just acquired a location up in Jackson that is a joint venture with with Premier Group. And that's a joint venture in a market that will absolutely require the highest level of service that probably almost any market outside of New York is likely to command. And the reason that they're doing it is because together they can actually rise to that level of service, which is higher than they're both individually providing right now. And that's where things are going. When billionaires are pushing millionaires out of a market, the level of service and everything that goes with it has to be up to that level. So, really understanding your market and being able to deliver to what it needs today, but being ready to stretch to what it needs tomorrow, I think is something that really just needs to be front of mind.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point.
Not easily done, of course.
No, not at all. Speaking of partnering, our next article is from Commercial Integrator. Should commercial and residential integrators partner up? Written by the one and only Amanda Wildman, who I'm sure is going to debate me on this in a moment. Go read through the article. Stop laughing. We haven't got to that part
I'm just
yet.
going to sit back and put my feet up here.
No, you get to go first.
Katie's going to be our referee for the day.
Yep. ding, ding, and in this corner.
So go read through the article because it is a phenomenal read. Amanda's touching on a couple of things about essentially that there should be a lot of collaboration between commercial and residential integrators because there are so many opportunities that cross over across the board. Katie, I do want to start with you on this so that Amanda and I can then duke it out.
Duke it out.
Duke it out.
Duke it out.
I think one of the biggest things that I see here and just revolving around this conversation in general is there a difference and is there a different approach between partnering up and essentially doing a handoff? Because I think there is. I think that 9 times out of 10, the handoff approach is the significantly more effective approach. Is you can get along really well when it's something that is in the commercial vein. If you're a residential integrator, you hand it off to your friends at this commercial integration company. When they get resi stuff, or if they have a CEO who wants their house done, they pass it on to you as the residential integrator. Is there a difference between that, or am I splitting hairs in terminology?
No. I think this is devil's in the details kind of scenario, and I think that there's it all depends on the the skill set, the scope of work, the level of capability. I think obviously having take that with a grain of salt, but sort of general brushstroke conversation here. But I think that the phrase everyone in their lane truly applies here as it does in any time we're talking about residential commercial work. However, more and more, and I think it's safe to say in both the commercial space and the residential space, there's a request for the service that extends beyond your traditional scope of work. And so resi integrators are being asked to do commercial. Oftentimes what I hear is it's the boardroom scenario, right? So you work on someone's home and they want you to do their boardroom. Maybe they want you to get involved in their church. And Matt, that one's intentional for you just to get the hair on the back of your head up so you can, yep, I know. Yep, I didn't say it was a good idea, but I just said, the question's going to come up.
You just had to bring that up, didn't you?
That's actually for the listeners, so they know that now they've heard you growl, so they know that you're coming. But no, I think that it's a reality is that the question is going to be asked of the service provider for there to be an extension of that service into a realm which is potentially maybe not their core cup of tea. So having resources available to be able to pull in and either align with a partner or hand off, whatever the situation really calls for, I think you need to be ready to pull the trigger differently depending on what the ultimate need of that client is. Does it make sense for you to have your hands in that project all the way through if you're a resi integrator and you've never done that type of work? Probably not. That's a handoff. To me, just brushstroke again. That'd be a really easy. Just hand it off because you want the outcome to be positive no matter what. And if you don't already have that skill set, there is somebody that is there. And the peer group structure within our community is getting so much stronger that I bet that's literally just a tweet away, looking for somebody that can provide that resource for you. So obviously the time to do that is before you have the need. So starting to do that networking beforehand, if that's something that's starting to come into view for you, I think is absolutely critical. But anyways, I'm going to now sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation between you two.
Wow. I don't know why she's implying that I'm adversarial in this one. Amanda, my friend, how do you manage the relationships here? Because this is my broad concern beyond the getting over your tips, getting beyond your skis, being out of depth, not knowing what you're doing. I can go down that vein for quite a long time. But once you do get a partnership or an understanding even, how do you go about not ruining that relationship and defining the line where you're going to back away or go after something? Because once you get a partnership going, that's the next issue that's going to arise. Is it's fine to do the CEO's, home theater, and then maybe it's okay if you do their network, and then maybe you'll touch their office. But then what happens when it's, something bigger or a little restaurant around the corner that they're investing into?
And I'm not necessarily saying, like in the article, I think when you see like partnership or whatever, you're kind of looking at it more like I'm totally writing off handoff. Like, and when you read that article, like I do talk about the pros and cons and like where you need to find your position, but there is definitely, a handoff in a certain area where like I can't get certain products as a resi person that sometimes commercial people can, but that a residential person wants in their home, right? So a partnership to me would be something like, okay, you know what? I don't want this executive to have a totally different office at their home than what it is that they have at work. But if I can partner with them and I can say, look, I'm doing the infrastructure, I'm setting up everything that needs to go inside, and you bring the product in, to me, that's a partnership, right? And it's clearly defined of where I start and where I finish. We've done some small, like, commercial projects, not like necessarily like a church project like yours, but where we've partnered, where I had the manpower and I had the bandwidth in the local area to be able to run the infrastructure. Now, the person that I partnered with, they were more commercial. They said, look, this is what we need, where we want our drops, how we want to have this set up. And we did a partnership kind of thing. Like, it was clearly defined where I started and where they finished. But I was in a position where I was local in the area. I had the manpower to be able to do it. They didn't have to have the resources to have someone come in for like multiple months over a super long project during the construction. I could come in and I could take care of part of that, and then they could come back in, and then they could come in with their crew for like a couple days or a week and finish out the infrastructure. So I guess when I say partner up, to me, that's more of like a partnership type of thing, is clearly knowing where my lane is. Like, I am not doing soundboards or stuff like that in a church, or I hate when I get the call about like the loop system, right, with the hearing aids or whatever. Like, I'm going to hand that off to whoever my partner is on that. But if there's certain infrastructure things that need to be there and I can help them along with that, or if there's a weird one-off scenario where someone needs something more within their home, I would argue that as a residential person, I know more about the structure of their home, pulling the wire, getting it to where it is that I need to, not dealing with like tray ceilings or drop ceilings and stuff like that, but I might not have the product. So that's where I'm talking about a partnership. So maybe I didn't totally articulate that in the article, but I don't think we're as far apart as what you think, Matt, on this whole topic.
I don't think we are. Where I get concerned, having run into this myself, is situations where you've got a residential integrator who wants to own the network in the home, and they should in most situations,
to a point,
but not all. We've had clients who are in the financial world or in the judicial world or in other areas, heck, in the political space, who have requirements that, as a quote-unquote residential integrator, I can't touch.
Correct.
And it has to go to the company that's managing that infrastructure for that organization in general. We see this a lot in office, like home office spaces, where can I get all the products as a company that has both divisions, a residential and a commercial? Usually I can, but quite often I can't actually achieve things because I'm not, in this situation, an approved vendor for that company. How do you go about, again, not stepping on toes in those areas? Do you just have to take the polite back seat?
Well, and that's where I would argue that that's where your partnership comes in, right? Is because you have that relationship. Maybe it's more of a relationship instead of a partnership, Matt. Where you have that relationship with someone where you can say, hey, I'm working on this person's home, but they have needs because of what type of career they're in, or because of, what it is that they're doing that I'm not equipped to go ahead and take care of. But what resources do I have? And I mean, over the pandemic, like, a lot of my commercial friends were great resources for me, when people had to go work from home. I mean, I didn't know squat. Like, you go to take your CTS certification. I mean, they spend chapters upon chapters on like microphones and stuff. You go to anything in CEDIA world, we don't talk about microphones at all, right? And so having those partnerships and having those,
And people should remember that.
yeah, and that's okay.
Stop selling microphones if you don't know what the heck you're doing. And video walls.
Correct.
And house of worship systems and video conferencing and most bars and restaurants and
But that's why you have that But that's why you have that partnership. Maybe it's a relationship, not a partnership. Maybe you just don't like the word partnership, but that's where you have that relationship where like I can work with you. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, it totally does. How do we get, and then we'll wrap this because I'll just go on a tangent. How do we get more integrators to recognize, and I'm going to be annoyingly blunt, that they do not know what they're doing and stop trying to swim in the deep end of the pool when you can't float or tread water or wear water wings and breathe?
Well, that's where you have that conversation on the service, right? Because understand that like you might see the dollars of you putting it in, but like at some point you have to service that. And like I don't care how much money you make off of a product if you don't know it and you have to pay to have someone on your team research it and develop it and service it, and it's much better equipped to have one of those other partners to, hey, I took care of like the infrastructure or whatever, and you're taking care of this piece. And that's right. Like even that executive office, I might take care of the rest of the house, but that office, you're going to tell me, hey, I want this drop here. I want that drop there. Like that's what I'm talking about, a partnership. So that commercial guy that's taking care of your office just comes in and says, okay, you know what? We're going to duplicate what we have at the office for your huddle room, but I'm working with that residential integrator to take care of that piece, but then they're going to service it. And all I did was take care of just what terminated at the wall where they needed it at that point. Because I don't want to service that. I mean, to service video walls all day long for me, it's just not a business model for me. And we do talk about that in the article. Like, you can't get too far in that deep end. You can't get into an area where now all of a sudden all that profit that you made, you're spending on service calls and truck rolls and trying to train a guy and looking like an idiot because they're going to give you bad press. They're going to be much quicker to give you bad press. You're going to lose future customers by not staying in your lane than if you stay in your lane and have a good partner.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I just love that you think most people actually research this stuff. And yes, Katie, just because you can means you most likely definitely should not. Because I'm feisty today. That is all the time we're going to have. Thank you both so much. Amanda, if people want to connect with you, learn more about True Media Home, where can they do that?
They can find me anywhere online at True Media Home, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And email is awildman@truemediahome.com.
We're going to make a rule, Mitchell, that no one is allowed to mention TikTok on the show.
Oh, come on. It's fun.
That's a rule. Katie, if people want to connect with you, learn more about KMB Communications, where can they do that?
Yep, I'll mostly all over the sphere, not on TikTok. Thank you, Matt. There you go. KMB Communications or Katie McGregor Bennett. It's Katie with the Katye. That makes me unique and special, and maybe you'll remember how to spell it. Maybe you won't, but search and you'll find me.
All right. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me or send me hate mail for this one, at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and most other social channels, send the hate mail. I won't read it. It's cool. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.